Hey guys, this is miicrow. I wanted to talk about Season 9, kind of what's coming, as well as I think a few things that weren't in here that are coming in Season 9, but were mentioned in other Discords with devs inside of them. So, but further ado, let's get into it. High level of this season is few new modes. I'd say major meta shakeup, and everything mostly pertains to PvE. There's some minor PvE additions, but I think the PvP meta will change a lot, and there's some things that will change according with that. We get a new 3v3 map, we get CTF, OPR will be disabled the first 2 weeks, and this patch comes out tomorrow at 5 PST. So you guys will, by the time you see this video, the patch will be out. So a few new modes there. OPR will be disabled at the beginning, and CTF will be in there. I think it will be both CTF modes, and then they rotate on an hourly basis. So it's like an OPR, so they have the one map where you can knock people off, and then you'll have the one map that's like a little bit more spread out, or you can like take more angles on it. So that will be kind of interesting. 3v3 is good to have another one. I don't play 3v3 a ton, but it's good to have content there, especially because this is like renewable content. So even if this isn't the focus of the current season, it'll be helpful next season. Some FFA zone updates. So I think large chests before took 20 seconds, now it's 15, and they give you more. Oh no, it was 25, they say right here. So it'll be easier to pick up those chests and get your coconut, which I think is good. They also added in some changes where if you're next to people, like there's a stacking debuff that you can get or something like that. And I don't know if it does damage to you, if it just makes it so that you die faster. But that in theory, it will combat people teaming together. In practice, I almost think it will work the opposite, because when I go into FFA area, like I usually go in with like max con tank build. And if I have people on me, I have like 5 or 6 people on me, and I'm usually living in 5v6 versus 1 with no healer as a tank for like probably 4 to 5 minutes, and that would probably reduce the time that I actually live, and I don't think I'd be able to kill people, but hey, we'll see if it does something. I guess anything is kind of a welcome change there. Max gear score was increased for something, so non-apex crate ranges are now 720 and 725, so that's an easy way to get near BIS, which is good. We do know that gear score is increasing to 800. I assume that's in Season 10, but we don't know that for sure. Could be, well, it's probably in Season 10, considering what's been like shown for Season 10 so far. So, like, I don't know how significant this is now, but hey, it will be good for a bit. And maybe 725 gear score is useful still when we go to gear score 800. Like, maybe with Umbral, they'll let us upgrade that the whole way. So it sounds like it would be really expensive to upgrade the whole way if you have to go a whole 75 levels, but, you know, we'll see. Some new artifacts. I think this is, like, the big highlight. They reworked some and added some that I think will be meta-changing. So, you got the Uterson Warhammer. From playing the Blunderbuss artifact in a few wars, I think this is good enough to be played in wars if you're smart. The main thing is when you're crashing, you don't want to be using your Warhammer effects, because your Warhammer effects will knock people away. Because this is to all Warhammer knockbacks. It's not just to, you know, it's not just to like 1 or 2. It's like to literally everything. So if you Shockwave, you're knocking people back. If you Armor Breaker, you're knocking people back, because there's a little bit of a knockback to all those abilities. So I don't know how great this is going to feel, but it's going to be really funny to watch. Definitely be good in the what do you call it, the CTF mode, where you can knock people off the edge of the bridge. Like, it'll be good there. But this will be a fun one. I think everyone's going to enjoy that. Crescent Wave is likely going to define the meta and also increase the price of mana pots, like, ridiculously, because you just need to chug through those things with this sword. But main thing with it is you use a heavy attack, it sends out a wave. We've already talked about that a few times. It's like while you are above 50% health, I guess that wave can be triggered. And the melee heavy attack damage, so like your normal heavy attack is reduced by 50%, but I think your normal heavy attack is still scales like significantly. Anyways, it's like it's a damage reduction to your normal heavy, but you get this like cool wave effect. And the reason why they had to put the damage reduction thing in there is because if you hit somebody with your heavy attack, it will also spawn a wave and it will effectively double hit them. And this was hitting for like up to 16k on the PvP server, so hopefully that's a bit less because this will hurt a lot, and each wave is costing mana, so I expect people will be spamming waves with probably Greatsword, Hatchet, and a squishy build, and then they'll be chugging mana pots and then spamming more waves. The heavy attack, like sideways slash waves, are the better ones because they will have a greater width and be able to hit more people. And you do kind of have to aim the wave a bit too, so that's kind of noteworthy. So this, like, there's a chance this isn't as meta defining as I think it will be, but I think it's very likely this is just meta defining. It seems like a better fire staff to me. And the bonus isn't bad either. I know a good amount of people have now said that, hey, this might be good enough to run like Greatsword Bow on. I still don't fully believe in it. It sounds like a little bit susceptible to me, but some of the changes that we go through later, maybe this is viable. Plague Herald, the Helm. This is a new hat. Your abilities and light attacks inflict 3% disease, and then you're inflicted with 1% disease per stack, and at 10 stacks, your heavy attacks will consume your stacks and trigger a cloud. So the abilities triggering a stack, I think it's like, I don't think like Ice Storm is going to work for that. And I feel like Meteor Shower is probably not going to work for that, but there's a little bit more of a chance for that one. In any case, it's an extra disease and an extra weaken on point, so somebody's probably going to run it in a war setting. I think it's honestly not that bad in OPR either. Classes I see running this, like Void Gauntlet is one that like comes to mind naturally because it's like a utility-based class. Flail can't run it anymore because flails are just stuck on Relentless duty unless you're Dale, in which case it's a tank. And you can't cook with the fun SNS BB combo that I've been having fun with lately. So, you know, you got some options there. I think somebody will play this for sure. It could be off point too. We just kind of have to wait and see. But 30% disease, 10% weakens, really good utility. It's the same utility as like the Hatchet like disease that you throw. So that's kind of noteworthy. That's some more utility that's not played right now. But it seems good enough to where it will probably be run somewhere. There's also some reworks. So Vengeance is now an outgoing heal staff. The question for Vengeance is, did they rework the previous perks? Because if it has Enchanted on there and doesn't have Blessed on there and has a Keen or I guess now Vicious Beacon on there, it's still not going to be used. So I still think Vengeance like has a chance to be dead on arrival, but might be good enough for AoE healer to run. Probably good enough to run at least one of in PvE, I imagine, because that's a little bit more AoE focused, and you're not usually like focused on refreshing Divine's Embrace all the time, so might be played there. I don't really see it as much in PvP though, just based off it not having refreshing Divine's Embrace unless they do a rework. A Grey Wizard's Hat is now basically just made for Fire Staff, so when you're above 50% mana, your magic ranged heavy attacks charge 25% faster. So that literally only applies to Fire Staff or Ice Gauntlet, but who's doing like spamming heavy attacks on Ice Gauntlet? So this is definitely like a Fire Staff thing, and all those attacks will be giving you CDR, which the Fire Staff will desperately need as we go through later. Creed is a lot better. I think this is like arguably usable for a good amount of builds now. Usable for this new Great Axe, usable for Musket, like anything that has like a large area of effect, maybe even Fire Staff. But backstabs and headshots against targets will deal 20% crit damage and inflict them with 10% weaken. I don't know if this is all crits or just those two effects. That would be kind of the question. You also get 10% in power for 5 seconds and increase your crit chance by 10% for 5 seconds, and targets can't be ambushed again. It'll, like, this is either, like, going to be used a lot, or I feel like it's not going to be used much at all, but it seems strong to have your first initial damage versus a target do a lot of damage. I think for melee builds, like, you're going to be debating between this and Tumblr. It just depends if you get your Empower up. Like, for Hatchet, it has a good way to get Empower up, so, like, it'd be probably a little bit more viable for that kind of weapon. But Tumblr is just such a good artifact. Like, I feel like it's pretty hard to replace for any melee. And going for headshots isn't really a thing right now, but maybe this pushes that because the bonus is good enough, but time will tell. Trisna, this is the Warhammer that has like a lifesteal effect on like people that are knocked down, and now it's like also against rooted and stunned enemies. So basically it's just going to proc a lot more often. Honestly, does this even have good enough perks? I feel like this didn't have good enough perks to even be considered before. The question is, like, could you ever use this in PvP? So it's not knockdown as other stuff now. So, like, this effect will actually apply, but only have one perk slot option, and it would probably have to be the rend perk, so then you wouldn't get like I think you're missing too much to run this in PvP, but PvE I could maybe see it if you're solo. Like I don't know. Like the issue is you don't have plague, or you don't have plague strikes, and you don't have trenchant strikes. So or like you're not going to be dealing nearly as much damage as a different stat or like a different warhammer, but you'll be healing yourself a good amount. So that's kind of the interesting part here, where there's a little bit of a give and take, but I don't think it's quite good enough. We've got some are middly fair. This is good gear for new people. I'd say for veteran people at this point, probably not the main thing, but if you're new to the game, like if you're one of the PlayStation players, this is definitely an event that gives good gear. It usually has health and elemental aversion, which is considered to be not best in slot for like every build, but it's very, very solid gear. It is best in slot for tanks, I can tell you that much, but I don't know if it's best in slot for everyone. So that event's coming, that's good. Some new world bosses, so some PvE action here that you can farm for some unique rewards. Little double XP events are coming too. And now we get to the combat updates, which are probably the more fun ones. So Haste got its cap nerfed from 50% to 40%. Noteworthy that the slow cap was not decreased as well, meaning that slow's cap is still 50% and haste cap is now 40%. So slowing should feel pretty similar. You just won't be as fast anymore. They nerfed haste across the board, and they mention that. They talk about flail a bit. They're talking about how they're trying to make it both good for healing and tanking, depending on how it's built. I'd say right now it's very limited for healing. Like, if I'm running 300 focus, I think I'm healing for about 1.5k on the vortex, but I'm not stacking like blessed and savior and sacred, which you could technically stack all of them now because we'll get to this later, but you can craft the worm gear now. So you could craft the worm light helm, and that would work while you have flail out. That would work while you had void gauntlet out. So that would be a way to boost it further. But it's like, I don't think flails like has access to enough heals to where this ever is realistic, unless the ultimate for flail is proccing really, really often. But the ultimate for flail is like proccing like every 5 or 6 seconds right now, and it's not healing for as much as like one tick from a sacred ground. So I don't see this, even if they buff the flail healing by 30%, which is what they're basically suggesting here. I still think it's not going to be likely that flail becomes a healer build, but flail will be better at healing, if that makes sense. Like, the only argument that flail has for being used for healing is it's a unique source of healing that it can apply. So it's like, say I have a life staff healing me, and I could also have a flail healing me, and I could also have a void gauntlet healing me. Like, that would be the only reason why I'd ever run this. I don't think there's a great reason outside of that. But it's a good attempt to try to get flow up there. It's just, I don't think flow has access to enough healing to really be considered to be a healer build. But I do like the idea of being a paladin. So in terms of general combat stuff, this is all the haste nerfs kind of going across the board. Don't want to read too much into these because these are a little bit boring. Let's go past all the haste stuff. And these are all haste, right? Haste. Yeah, we don't really care about that. Don't care about the flail one, although I'm a little bit sad because some of those are kind of nice. Potent alacrity. This is like the heal off of your consumes one is now potent vivacity. It gives, so it's a potency to energized status effects. Also increases the power from 9 to 12%. No, this is a different one. This is, I'm thinking of the wrong one. This is like, this made your haste better. I don't know. Like, they're doing something here. It's not going to be good enough to be run. I don't know. Hasted vigor got reduced. Okay, this is still all haste stuff. So yeah, this is just general haste reworks. Let's get to the fun ones. Okay, equip loads, remove block stability modifier from heavy and light. That just means blocking's universal amongst light, medium, and heavies. They're trying to like buff the lighter stuff, I guess. I don't think, like, this will affect tanks a bit. Like, I think it's a 10% nerf to blocking for tanks, but it's not super significant. Armor penetration added to siege weapons. Okay, I mean, I don't think it's going to change too much, but it'll be fun. Maybe it'll actually hit pretty hard now. All this stuff I don't really care a ton about. We got some perks. So we already talked about Keen Beacon, but now this is Vicious Beacon. I think that is a buff definitely a buff in PvE. PvP, a little bit more questionable, but I would think it would be a buff. I don't know if it's good enough to run all the time, but it's interesting. Trenchant run cooldown being removed while swapping weapons is like, I feel like this was specifically made for me because I do this in like every single VOD, and I've done this for every VOD in the last 3 years. Like you'll see every other tank like spamming light clicks, or I'll just be holding block. You see me just go heavy attack, switch weapons, heavy attack, switch weapons. Like that's why I was doing that. That's gone now, so I still think treasure run is good enough to run, but it's a little bit less good. Mortal lifesteal on hit lifesteal. This thing was every time you hit somebody with the lifesteal, it was actually triggering a heal. And that heal could be used to proc healing breeze, which then was kind of snowballing into people not dying again in terms of kill squads, which is kind of a nightmare. They also changed healing breeze so it'll work out the first application of a heal. So it's like if you are standing in a sacred, only that initial thing will actually heal you. It's not constant, which I think is a good balancing point. Mending sticking bomb I don't think matters a lot. Bow reduced poison shot cooldown. They fixed an issue where bow could be rapid fired. This was with heavy attacks, and this was known for a bit, but I don't think it really made its way through the PvP scene this time, which was kind of nice. Because when that was used to be meta, where you were able to do this, if you didn't do this, you were not swattable as a bow. And I didn't see many, like, I haven't watched a ton of bow VODs, but from the bow VODs I was seeing of supposed good bows, I wasn't seeing them use this. So that was kind of encouraging that people weren't exploiting this and it got patched out early, which is cool. In terms of other stuff, that fire staff, they nerfed the damage on this. Sorry, let me leave this Discord call. I'm deafened in here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can even hear that, but I forgot to leave that earlier and start recording and had a little bit of an oopsie. It was kind of funny. But they're nerfing fire staff a bit. I would still like to see them change how Smolder works to be kind of like how Sundering Stacks works, in the sense that if you have 1 second left of Smolder and another thing gets applied, it refreshes that, or another Smolder gets applied, it refreshes that previous stack. And that just doesn't feel really fun to play against because you're just like always on fire. It's like kind of like you're playing like against Infernus and Deadlock, and it's just like it's literally hell to like duel anyone with that kind of thing without a life staff like pocketing you. I'm glad they're nerfing it, but I feel like they could have been a little bit more aggressive from that. They increased Pillar Fire's cooldown, which is nice. Like in general, they're just like fixing a lot of stuff with fire staffs. They made it so that you have to like you're looking to heavy attack to get CDR more to cast abilities that got their cooldowns nerfed. So like I feel like this is just generally in a healthy direction. A Pillar of Fire with aim lock, I don't know if that was addressed at all, but that one will be kind of an interesting one to see because it was basically a guaranteed hit on Pillar of Fire. In terms of Flail, they buffed the healing, talked about that. Don't think that will change a ton. Deflecting Frailty had its lifesteal power increased. That's kind of nice. This is the weird part, is like if you run focus with the Flail, it's going to increase the duration of this effect. And like the duration of how long like the weakening will be applied. So this is like great in PvP, but like in PvE, I don't think this is really a run skill. Support of Blessing reduced the self-healing portion of 50% base damage to 35% of base damage. Okay. Fixed an issue where the barrage failure to launch upgrade will sometimes trigger twice on a hit. Oh, is this for people to double tap it and then they get sad? Unlucky. Weapons, Great Axe, some Gravel changes, so they fix an issue where Gravel would sometimes not reach a max slow value when combined with other slows. That honestly kind of scares me, but alright. I'm tired of getting pulled in by Great Axe Gravels, but hey, we have great pots now, so that helps a bit. This hatchet change is pretty significant, so the idea here is reducing the total duration, or the base duration of Berserk, but then you can increase it when you're attacking people. So they're trying to make it so that you use Berserk offensively and not defensively. To be honest, it's probably still going to be used defensively because grit is amazing and it gives you grit and lets healers actually live. So, and like other classes as well. So I wouldn't expect like Hatchet to ever be a main hand and free to use this offensively, but if you look at it that way from a defensive standpoint, this is a very significant nerf to the duration of Berserk, which is good. Because it was being used a bit too much, in my opinion. Weapons, life staff, refreshing frost being reduced to 15% from 20% is a very significant nerf. This will basically make it so that you can't go infinite with Ice Gauntlet stuff. Like, you'll be close if you refreshing stock, but you won't quite be there. Which is probably a good thing, because I was going shower, like I would stand in the ice effect, I'd do a shower into storm into tomb into pop tomb into shower into storm into tomb, and I literally could do that 3 times before my stuff went off cooldown with certain builds. And it was a little silly, so probably a good idea to tone that back a bit. Increase the knockback of wind chill, I think, is really good. We had a clip like a day or two ago, or not a day or two ago, like a week or two ago, that I posted where I got a double kill with a wind chill. My gosh, that thing does not push people at all anymore. Like, they like tickles them, so like it's probably good that they brought this back so that wind chill could actually be used defensively. I also think wind chill is just in general an underrated perk right now, because it gives you grit, and like you have grit, you have damage reduction. So like this is something that I could even see becoming meta. It's just not quite there yet because it doesn't feel consistent, and this will help a bit. So if you have melees on you and you're trying to like declump, if you pull out the wind chill, you'll blow the melees away. You'll have grit, so you take less damage, and you're probably stammed out because you just tried to dodge a crash, and you can get healed at the same time. Like, I actually could see this being used as a meta ability if this is significant. It's good enough now. Weapons, life staff. Fix an issue where throwable items, while aiming throwable items, the life staff equip would only target locking the allies of enemies, so unfortunate. And fix an issue that allowed light attacks to be fired faster than expected. None of those are super significant, but fix another exploit here. The life staff machine gun meta is gone once again, which is good. Some musket changes, but no one plays muskets, so I'm just going to move on. Sorry for Horrorlocks, because he's like the one guy I know that does it, and like J-Chop, but I don't think anyone else really cares. Weapons, rapier, fix an issue that caused deadly flourish to grant stamina. Okay. And flourish and finish had a change. I think it's mostly affects PvE, but I'll read through it one more time. Fixed an issue where finish would often fail to hit certain AI. Okay. In addition, the pushback from flourish has been reduced from 1.5 meters down from 3 meters for AI. Okay, so PvE. Yeah. Okay. So like this wasn't really a used ability in PvP, but PvE, like rapier is god tier, so probably a good thing that they're trying to tone that down a bit. Weapon, sword and shield, leaping strike no longer staggers, so it's a gap closer, but it won't allow you to like have a guaranteed hit after you hit the gap close, which changes a lot. Will it still be used? I mean, it's a movement ability, so probably, and it's SNS, and let's be real, there's not like another ability on SNS that you're probably gonna run. Like, if you look at Sword and Shield, you can go Whirling Blade from a Kill Squad perspective, you can go Upheaval, you can go Leaping, you can go Shield Bash, and you can go Shield Rush. Resolve isn't terrible, but you probably want to run it. So, like, there's a chance this gets cut, and then you just go, like, Whirling and do a heavy attack and a Whirling Blade to try to gap close, and Upheaval's still good, and maybe you do Shield Rush for the slow. Like, that would be an option. Or you pick up Shield Bash again. So, like, you still have options here, but the main idea is, like, you can't have an infinite gap close on a weapon that can also block for a long period of time, so that's a good balancing change. And I think this has potential to shake up the large amount of the meta, which is kind of interesting, at least from a small to medium scale perspective. Void Gauntlet, Leeching Blade only going to scale with focus. Apparently it didn't before, which is a little disturbing. The weapon damage is nerfed by 5% for light attacks and a little bit less than that for heavy attacks, but raw damage for heavy was nerfed by 5%. This change is probably closer to like a 10% nerf, if I'm going to be honest, considering Void Gauntlet pretty consistently sat near Empower Cap and had relatively high base damage. So this could be as high as like a 10 to 15% nerf if everything compounds your way. I think Void Gauntlet's still going to be used because it's really good at closing distance and it's really sticky, but I think the way that it has to be balanced nowadays is like it has to be sticky to some extent, but it can't do too much in terms of damage. Like, it can't be scary, and I think they have to figure out a way to find that medium. And just they're getting there, but it might be a little bit of a slow change. You might need another one of these in Season 10 or whatever. Added a cooldown to Invigorated Rupture. Oh, is this one of the funny things? I thought Invigorated Rupture had a cooldown, or had an activation cooldown. Well, it might have made its way into the notes now, but I'm pretty sure I had that before. Oblivion was causing damage to yourself. That's kind of funny. And some Void Blade changes in general. So, nothing too crazy there. The damage nerf will be interesting to watch for. They adjusted the window in which the rotation is possible for Wrecking Ball and armor penetration abilities to make them feel a bit smoother. Okay, so Wrecking Ball actually might be used now. That's good. And Heart Rune wise, Stoneform had its duration reduced to 4 seconds. That will still probably be run. The noteworthy part of this is it's like one less healing tick. So you're going to be healing less with Stoneform. For the tanks, we use Fortifying Stoneform now. We don't even bother with the healing one. But for people that use the healing one, they'll probably feel this. Is Stoneform still like the best Heart Rune in the game? Probably. But it tilts the balance a little bit more to other Heart Rune's favor. I think if Stoneform was like 3 seconds, people would probably consider switching off of it. But at 4, I think it's still significant enough for people to use it. Grit Pots also look a little bit more enticing with this kind of change as well. Like, there is a chance at some point that we go to, like, a Grit Pot, just use Cleanse and, like, Ascent meta, which sounds really troll, but it's what tanks are already starting to do. And anytime you use Ascent with you have, like, more than 5 people on you, it's basically a full heal, like a 20k heal. So, there is a chance we go to that meta, but hey, that's a better meta than the Stoneform one, so we'll see where this goes. And if you're rooted, then there's counterplay there. Mount speeds and settlements have been increased. Nice. And Desert Sunrise got changed, so now Pestilence will probably do something. Burst regen potions were granting mana. I mean, the regen one's normally granting mana, but I guess that's an issue as well, or was an issue. Everything else here is like relatively minor. In terms of game modes, is it worth going through these? The pity rule for CTF is nice because those matches definitely got out of hand, but I think you could still 5-stack on CTF, so it'll be kind of interesting to see that meta. But it was a little bit painful because of the 5-stacking before. Outpost Rush removed the southwest and southeast ramps. Bridges will give an advantage to navigating directly from the starting forts, so they're trying to make the bridges more enticing by not letting you go left or right. So people are just going to go out of the main and probably not use the bridges anyway, but hey, the bridges might be nice for a PvEer to make at some point. It's just like probably not, but maybe. Updated Bulwark to be able to place more areas of the Outpost Rush maps. Okay. And these are all kind of minor things. Arena stuff is pretty minor. Ring starts not 30 seconds. Okay, so I think I could definitely be wrong about this, but I think it's faster because they've tried to make these rounds generally faster recently. So maybe stall builds are a little bit better for 3v3. And then you run like the new Warhammer, just knock people out of the arena and hope they die to cheesy stuff. But I don't think anything else here is worth talking about from a PvP side, but they have some PvE updates. So like AFK warning being reduced is probably a good thing to help with people who are AFKing, because that was happening a bit. General story stuff, economy, added sandworm material recipes for trial via named armor pieces. So we have the heavy worm boots that will probably be meta defining. We got the medium ones, which are pretty good, but a little bit nerfed. And the Savior Light Helm. I think the boots are nerfed, but the 12% haste or something like that. But the Savior Light Helm is like just Mando for all healers now, and might be good enough to run on other roles as well. So keep an eye out for that, because you probably will need to run those worms in order to get that materia if you want to be slotted in certain wars. But yeah, this stuff will be really interesting. I'm curious what they're going to change with the 800 gear score stuff, because I think these pieces have potential to be used at 800 gear score if there's not something that's like viable alongside of them. Like if the new set bonuses that they've talked about aren't good enough, then like there is a chance that people just continue to run these at a lower gear score into the next expansion, just because the effects are just that strong on these pieces. But it will still be a little bit more obtainable, so playing field's a little bit more even, and gives a little bit more of incentive to do the worm. But I don't think anything else here is super exciting. everyone kind of knows season 10 is going to be the really fun one, but hey, this is still some good changes for kind of an intermediate season, and I think kind of sets the tone. And the game looks like it's going into a better spot, so kind of excited to see what they do from it from here. But let me know what you guys think of this, and I'll see you guys later.